Hey sports and facilities fans, I'm Joe Bebon, editor of Facilities Management Advisor. I'm about to go hit the road and visit UConn, the University of Connecticut. It's home of the legendary Huskies men and women teams, which is why it's been called the basketball capital of the world. I've got my Huskies swag, a cup of coffee ready to drink, so let's go. Well, folks, I made it. It's a little rainy, but thankfully there was no traffic, so that's a plus. I'm standing here outside the Harry A. Gampel Pavilion. It's situated right in the heart of UConn's flagship campus in Stewart's, Connecticut. As the home of the Huskies, it's one of the most iconic venues in college basketball. As you may be able to see, the facility has a domed roof that towers more than 130 feet above the ground. This place was built in 1990 and has a capacity of over 10,000 seats, making the largest on-campus basketball arena in New England. That's pretty cool. Let's head inside. Is that a t-shirt gun?
It is.
Wow.
Gatling gun.
Nice. So I'm sitting here with Evan Feinglass, UConn's Associate Director of Athletics in charge of Facilities Management and Planning. Thanks for having me today, Evan.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
Absolutely. First, let's talk about you. How long have you been at UConn, and could you please describe your role?
Sure. I've been here since 2003, and I oversee all of our capital projects. It's my primary focus here within athletics. Obviously sitting here in Gampel Pavilion, but I work with any of our athletic projects, and there's obviously multiple facilities that are within the athletics, I'll say the athletics district.
Cool. So what are your main duties here at Gampel Pavilion?
Obviously, right now we had just finished, and I think we'll touch on it a little bit, I'm sure in some other more detail, but we just finished a project this past summer, a $10 million project that included the video boards that you'll see here on either side. And then this coming summer, we're doing replacing all the seating in the lower bowl, and then that'll roll right into a $100 million renovation of the facility.
All right, so let's also talk about the facility itself.
Sure.
If you don't mind. Obviously, one of the facility's most unique features is its domed roof. I was just walking outside, getting a lot of footage of it. It's pretty cool looking. What are some of the other noteworthy features of this venue?
Obviously, the dome is probably the most iconic one that you see. I mean,
Absolutely.
obviously, you think of Gampel Pavilion, you think of campus, you look at the postcard, you think of the dome. Obviously, that's the most, I'll say, most iconic image. It's the one that keeps me up at night too, I think, probably the most. The building obviously opened up in 1990, and I think the other thing that people probably don't realize is this building, half the building it's not just an athletic building, half the building it's actually academic building, so probably the entire opposite of where you and I are sitting here, that whole side opposite of where we're sitting right now is academic, so the Department of Kinesiology has offices and labs on that side of the building, so it's not just a building that has our athletic offices and locker rooms in it. There's actually an academic piece that does have its, I'll certainly say, some of its challenges in it. But again, the actual building itself is from when it opened up in 1990. It was a great place to watch basketball, but obviously as things evolve and I'll say game day evolves and the fan environment and expectations evolve, we try to evolve with that, and those are some of the things that we're hoping to touch on when we get into the $100 million renovations.
Gotcha. I feel like you kind of touched upon it. You said there are challenges. But first, one thing I am curious about is just in general, I mean, it's a cool gig you got here. How's it feel to oversee such an iconic sports venue? What's your favorite part about maintaining, the home of the Huskies?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much history. I mean, if you look up above us here, you've got the 6 national championships on the men, and above us over here, you've got the 11 hopefully coming up. Hopefully we got another, hopefully on the women's side we got a semifinal game tonight out in Spokane, Washington. So hopefully we can add to that count. But so much history in this building, so many great shots that were made in this building, and obviously we play half our games here and probably half in Hartford, but so much history just in this building, and the environment in here I think is great. I mean, that whole end On this side over here is our student section. It just in a great environment on a game day. It really is a special place. You know, the court, we just replaced this court last summer, so it was the original court. It's a permanent floor system. And, you know, we ended up selling pieces of the floor, and there was such a demand. People loved having a piece of history, I'll say, of that court. And it was a really neat thing for people to felt like you owned a piece of history. There was so much history in that floor from this building. It was a really neat thing to do and be able to offer that. So, you know, hopefully we get another 30 years out of this floor. But again, you know, this building just has so much history in it, and you can just look around at the recognitions and the Hall of Fame banners and the things that are on the wall up above us. It just so many stories you can tell.
Absolutely, and hopefully this floor sees many more wins.
Yes.
All right, so that's all the upsides. That said, like I said, you mentioned challenges. What would you say are some of the biggest, I would say, facilities management challenges here at the Pavilion, even though apparently you're more in charge of the capital planning, but what would you say are some of the biggest challenges of?
Yeah, I think I mentioned one of the things we're doing this summer, replacing the seats that we're sitting in are original to the building.
Can I take these home?
You can. Yeah, if you want to help get the demo going, we can start right now if you want to.
I mean, I didn't bring a hammer or anything.
But these are going to be replaced, so we're replacing all of the lower bowl seating, even the fixed seating this summer. And again, these are, you know, original to the building, so these are 35 years old, these systems, and we do sometimes struggle to get these systems to come in and out, which can pose a problem. So we're looking forward to replacing these with a more efficient, newer system that we don't have to worry about as much. We're going to change the look and the feel of the seat, create some wider seats, some nicer seats, and, you know, some different size seats depending on where you're sitting. You know, the end zone where the student sits are going to become a bench seats. The seats that we're sitting here in the middle are going to be a wider seat with a logo and cup holders, things like that. But
cup holders, right.
It'll be a much nicer, comfier seat, a little bit wider seat where we're sitting. That's going to be a great addition. You know, I think that'll be one of the things that will hopefully, with that piece, will be great. You know, obviously the dome is one that is another thing that we have a challenge with. You know, in 2017 we had a $10 million renovation that the dome itself was original, and all the material on the inside, which is just a fabric material, but it was becoming brittle and dry. And so if you looked at images from prior to 2017, there was a lot of peeling, and you know, sometimes on some of our photos you might see, sometimes we would almost Photoshop them in, but you could see some of that peeling, and you see a silver backing. It was sort of unsightly. It wasn't anything, it wasn't that we were having leaks, things like that. It was just brittle and dry, and it was just 30, you know, it was old. So basically the project at that time was to replace and rewrap all 2,000, I want to say there was 2,300 some odd triangles that you see up here. And that work was done after a bunch of different, looked at many different methods to do it. Everything was done from the outside.
Wow.
So they basically had several crews on the roof that lowered pods of 6 opened up the roof from the outside, lowered what you see on the inside down to the ground, rewrapped each of those triangles with new fabric and insulation, brought it back up, resealed the roof. And that's what this cleaner material is right now. That in itself had led to some challenges when we sort of opened up the roof and put it back together, because it wasn't put back together exactly the same as maybe how it had been done in 1990. And that led to some challenges with condensation and things like that we had to deal with after the project was completed. We then had to put in 2 large dehumidification systems that are located up behind the wall, behind the last row of seats, that pumps warm air into that interstitial space between the interior panel and the exterior, just to dry out, because it was that freeze-thaw condition was leading to condensation, was dripping onto the court and other areas in the building. So that happened after we did the project, and something that had not really happened before we opened up the roof. So we had to deal with that, and that was one of the challenges that still sort of haunts me to this day is that. So that's one of the, I'll say the biggest challenges obviously is the dome itself. We don't really have, there's no easy way to get there. There used to be a basket, if you look up above us, through the speaker cluster, there used to be a single pulley, a single man basket that would come down through the speaker cluster, and you'd go up to the cupola, and that's how you'd get to the roof. That's how you get up there to tie off, do any kind of roof work, dome work. That was, OSHA said no to that several years ago, so we now have a lifeline for climbing on the outside that you access from the gutters, and that's how you access the roof. And then there's several tie-offs to the cupola, so someone's got to climb up, tie off ropes, and then everybody else can go up and do the work. But there is no easy way to get up to the roof.
I'm not going to volunteer to do that.
So there is no easy way to do it, but those are one of the challenges. Obviously, you can see I've got suspended catwalk, so it's not, in terms of doing a concert, things like that in here. This was built for basketball.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not like you go to the XL Center or some other arenas where you can rig things. We do concerts in here. It's just you have to bring a lot of things in. Obviously, I really can't hang any more from the dome than what's up there right now based on the structure itself. These catwalks are suspended, so those are some of the challenges. The dome itself still has some challenges because of, we had I don't know if you saw several weeks ago, we had a leak.
No.
During the game that delayed the start of a game, which is the kind of stuff that I lose sleep over. Yes.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that I lose sleep over still with this roof. But
any idea what
it just
caused that issue?
We believe just a lot of times that the snow and ice will freeze up top, and then as the dome heats up, even in the wintertime, it'll heat up enough where it'll slide down, and it may cut into some of the sealant, the caulking, or shear off a bolt. And even if, you don't need much of a hole to lead to an issue.
Water
and so,
always finds a way.
Yeah, so that was what we were dealing with on that night, and that was the first time that we ever had that happen. And the last time that happened was probably in the 90s. Was probably the last time that had happened. So.
Wow. So what was the solution for that?
The solution for that is we waited and it stopped. Like I mentioned to you, there was nothing that we could really do in the game. I couldn't really go up there with a can of Flex Seal and sprayed on, and we were fortunate enough that it stopped that night. We were, I hate to say that we were lucky, but we were lucky that night. That's what makes me nervous with something like that. I can't really get up to the roof in the middle of the game. There's no easy way to get up there to do that. We were lucky that night, and that's one thing that part of the renovation, the $100 million renovation that we're going to do, we're in the process of contracting with an architect as we speak, is to address some of the roof concerns, and whether that means redoing the roof, changing the look, the feel of the roof, we don't know, but one of the things that we're looking at is the dome itself because of the issues that we have. It just is not, unfortunately, is something that has to be addressed. And again, that could mean, like I said, it could mean changing the way that it looks, which, obviously I know the dome is iconic, but it could take on different things, whether that means reskinning the roof, whether it means changing the look and the feel of the outside of the building altogether, I don't know. But one of the things we are going to look at as part of that project is the roof itself and how that impacts the building, because obviously, all of our games, men and women, are on national TV of some type.
Absolutely.
And obviously to have a game not be played, or that would be the worst thing for us.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Or have a student athlete go down and get injured because of something coming from the ceiling that that we could control. So.
It looks beautiful. It's actually really cool. Obviously, there's a long list of challenges. Is there any benefits to having a domed roof that you could think of?
Aside
from the iconic
look?
No,
it's obviously, we use it as a, certainly we use it for some of our show aspects of the game. Whether we go lights out, we can project things in the dome. And now that since we had done the renovations, it's almost a nice clean white palette, so we go lights out. We now have colored LED lights, so we can uplight it blue or red or different colors. We have gobos with the Husky dog, and we can do different things. So yes, there definitely is. It's a neat feature to be able to project things onto the dome itself. It is neat. It's definitely iconic.
So yeah, the pavilion's 35 years old now. It's seen a lot of games. Any other notable renovations?
As I mentioned, I think that there's a $100 million project that we're working on right now that'll probably once we get an architect on board, we would look to start that probably in 2026. And that will be something where the building will remain active, but we'll have to sort of work through the logistics of what exactly that means. But I think that project really is, as I mentioned, part of it will include the roof, but it'll be really sort of the focus will really be sort of revenue generation. Right now, I think as I mentioned, that side of the building has the academic areas. This side of the building has a lot of our athletic administration offices. Currently downstairs behind us where we're sitting, we still have, from when basketball lived in this building, now they have a practice facility across the street, but I still have separate men's and women's basketball locker rooms that are here that are used on game days. Otherwise they're really vacant. So it's really taking, I'll say, the non-fan facing elements and moving those downstairs off the street level and trying to make the concourse level really anything that's fan facing. And that includes what kinesiology has, trying to bring all their elements downstairs. Because right now when you walk in the building, there is no sort of outer concourse. When you're in the building. And so it gets very congested and it's tight. And so we're trying to open up more space. Other things that we're look to do is to get some spaces for premium spaces, function spaces. Right now we're using the lobby. I didn't bring up, maybe after this when we walk around I'll show you. Please. But we have a couple different spaces that we call club areas. So we have a former weight room that's here in Gampel that we call the Legends Lounge. It's no longer a weight room, but we use it as a lounge on game days for our certain level of donors. There's a Champions Club that's behind us up here on the concourse that is the lobby outside of our athletic director's office. Again, it's a lobby. It wasn't designed to be a club. We use that. And then I have a lobby outside of our pool that is another club area. And again, it's a lobby outside of the pool, but it was never designed for that. But it's spaces that we have that we utilize now. As part of the renovation, we're going to design spaces that can be utilized for those things. As I mentioned, revenue generation is probably a big focus of what we're doing. So sort of revamping some of our concessions and food and beverage options and some premium options. So some grab and go type of things that you see in a lot of stadiums and venues now. Currently our basketball program and our football program each have their own training table, dining areas in their facilities. It would be creating, on game days, it would be a food and beverage for fans, a club area, but only 340 other days out of the year that there's not a game in here. It'd be training table, it'd be a dual purpose space, it'd be a space that the student athletes that aren't on men's basketball, women's basketball, or football could do their meals. So I think those are the kind of things that we're looking at over here and trying to focus all of those things. But again, we're just in the early stages of contracting with an architect and developing plans, but the hope is to start some of that in 26 and then work on phasing, and try to phase through so that, again, we don't want to not play here, so we're trying to figure out what can be done continuously through without impacting the ability to still play in the arena of the venue. And currently behind the wall across from us, that's my golf team's practice area, so you may hear some golf balls hit here as we're sitting here. This is our golf team. Yeah, so behind, we don't have a golf course obviously on campus, but behind all the Big East Conference banners, there's lockers, there's a simulator, putting green, some different driving areas that the golf team practices with. So, some thoughts is, we're also working on a separate project for the golf team, but if they're not up there, is that an area that could be upper level food and beverage bar option for fans, things like that. Just trying to use space that and open up additional space, because again, like I said, when you walk in this building, I don't have a whole lot of footprint to expand out. So trying to better utilize space within and help move people around, in a more efficient manner. Because right now, like I said, if you came here on a game night, when you walk in, you're trying to get your hot dog or a beer or soda or popcorn, and there's a line for the men's room, there's a line for the food and beverage, you're trying to get to your seat. It's everything sort of crosses all in one spot, because when you walk in the door, you're there. Whereas the Excel Center, maybe you walk in and there's sort of a outer concourse and then there's an inner ring. It just here we're not fortunate enough to have that space.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was surprised coming in, I thought I was just coming to see a basketball arena, but this is truly a multi-use facility.
Yes.
You got academia, you got golf apparently, you got a pool, you said.
Yeah, the technically part of Gampel is our competition swimming and diving area, which is on the other side, Wolfsack and Auditorium, which is part of Gampel. That's on the other side of the seats over there, and that's our women's swimming and diving program is based out of there. That's currently under renovation in the locker room, and offices are currently undergoing a renovation as we speak.
Great. I mean, it sounds like you're basically taking a 35-year-old building, it's iconic, trying to upgrade it for fans and players and students alike.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the video boards that we did this past summer, we did video boards, we did some upgraded show lighting, and then we redid all the branding that you see with all the, whether it's the national championships or the Huskies of Honor, which is sort of our basketball sort of Hall of Fame. All of those things were redone this past summer. And then obviously this coming summer is the seating, and then we sort of roll right into the overall $100 million project.
So, I mean, you obviously know your stuff. I was wondering, you've been doing this quite a while. Just for our audience who may be starting out, what advice would you give to someone aspiring to work in, overseeing a sports facility?
Think twice. No, I wouldn't say think twice. No.
Cut that.
Yeah, no, edit that. Edit that quick. No, I mean, obviously the one thing I tell folks all the time is obviously I think internships, or there's a sport management program here at UConn that we work closely with. And so I know a lot of the students that work within our department as interns or just work with us on a day-to-day basis are in that program. And I know part of that program often they require you to have a certain number of hours. And so I think that's, just in terms of getting involved, that's probably the biggest thing, whether it's volunteer or doing the internship. That's probably just getting your foot in the door. That's probably the best way to do it. And we've had several students that have been in that program, whether it's the undergraduate or the graduate program, that I've written recommendation letter for to go to, whether it's another institution to pursue a master's degree in sport management, something like that. That's what I would recommend.
Do you throw them up on the roof?
They can if they want to, they can do it. Sure.
Oh, great. All right. Well, again,
Great.
Thank you so much for your time.
Certainly.
It's been
Thank
a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thanks for showing me around.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. All right, folks. Thus concludes my little tour and road trip up to UConn. I was able to check out the Gampel Pavilion. It was a great facility with a lot of history, some challenges, but also looks like it's coming into the future. Going to make a great place for all the fans and players alike. I'd like to give a shout out to Evan Feinglass and the great folks at UConn for having us. And of course, thanks to you for checking out our content. Take care.